Good morning. So, to start the presentation, I'd like to ask you all to just envision in your minds for a moment your process for making decisions, supply chain decisions today, whether it's dealing with a particular problem or trying to take an advantage of an opportunity. Think through what's involved in major decision making today in your business, okay? So I would guess that it's typically gathering resources together, right? Building a team, gathering data, analyzing the data, putting it into a structure that can be consumed and analyzed, assessing risk, trying to understand the different options that you have, modeling, determining outcomes, right? All with the effort of trying to come to a consensus and make a decision, right? And that probably takes weeks, days, weeks, months perhaps, depending on the size of the decision. And now think about the impact of making the wrong decision and basically revisiting it months later and trying to clean up all the problems that are resulting from that poor decision, right? So we at Gaines aim to try to take the pain out of that process, try to take the labor out of that process, and deliver better quality outcomes through a more structured and modern approach to decision making. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and how we are essentially transforming our technology around this conceptual framework to try to deliver to that. Before I do that, I'd like to just talk for a moment about who we are, okay? Gaines is a supply chain solution provider. We are headquartered in Chicago in the U.S. We serve inventory-intensive corporations, right? We help them navigate essentially the convergence of cost, complexity, and customer service, okay? So we serve businesses from small to medium-sized businesses all the way up to multi-billion-dollar enterprises, primarily in distribution, retail, manufacturing, and MRO. So we help businesses like yours by automating and optimizing supply chain decisions, right? Leading to better financial performance, better customer service, better customer experience, and increased operational efficiency. And we empower our customers to achieve rapid results, essentially by helping them make the right decisions at the right time with speed and scalability. We're supply chain nerds, and we're proud of it. I don't know if that word translates very well, but we are very interested in solving challenging supply chain problems, coming up with new, novel solutions, and trying to continue to adapt and help our customers navigate the ever-changing world of supply chain. Right? We've been at this for over 40 years. We continue to expand our sphere of expertise and our capabilities. We invest heavily in R&D, so we continue to expand the scope of the solution, right? I'll talk a little bit more about that. We're constantly looking at ways to make it better and make it perform better for our customers. Lastly, we are very customer focused, okay? So essentially we have a very high degree of success with implementations. We retain our customers for a long, long time. I've been at Gaines for 25 years. We have customers that go back to the early 90s. So we have a very high rate of retention, 97+%, and this 100% recommended club really talks about a 100% net promoter score that we achieved on the last Gartner Peer Insights report. And we were the only vendor in our space to accomplish that. We've had a long and successful partnership with Net Logistics. This is a few examples of customers that we've been able to deliver value to. Tamex is a tier 1 electrical supply distributor in the top 3 or top 2 in Mexico, right? Interested in modernizing their logistics and planning processes, also in expanding and optimizing essentially their supply chain network. Circle K, of course, we're all familiar with Circle K. They were interested in essentially improving their logistics and planning, automating their distribution to their stores, and focused on really making sure product availability is the main focus so that everybody can get their coffee in the morning when they're on their way to work, or whatever else they need to procure. And then lastly, a more recent customer, Radek in retail, a distributor of aftermarket auto parts, and interested in transforming their planning and operations in supply chain, as well as collaborating, having a way to collaborate with their trading partners. So Net Logistic, with support from Gaines, has been able to deliver to all these customers and essentially fit in with their technology landscape, including SAP, Blue Yonder, Honeywell, etc. So we complement these other systems for these customers and deliver value. I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges that are driving us to sort of really make a major pivotal effort in our technology. So here are some of the challenges that we're facing in supply chain today. Let me ask, as something evolves, does it tend to get more complex or less complex? More complex, right? Life started as little one-celled organisms swimming around in a puddle, and now we have the diversity and the complexity that we have of life today. Ecosystems evolve like this. It's an organic evolution. Supply chains also evolve in a similar way. Responding to the demands that are placed upon them, we have to adapt within those supply chains and meet the challenges. So some of the things that are really driving that change: globalization, of course, right? Specialization, you're getting a lot more choices. There are a lot more parties involved in the supply chain, creating more links. And most importantly, it's becoming more dynamic. So supply chains are composing and recomposing at a very rapid rate. And we have to be able to keep up with that, right? So, you know, the complexity is not really the problem, because complexity can be navigated, it can be interpreted and predicted, right, with the right tools and methods. The problem is that it's not a very harmonious evolution, right? Different factions of the supply chain are not keeping up. We get weak links, and what we end up with is volatility, uncertainty, and fragility in the supply chain. And I think we've all experienced that in the past few years here. So what does that mean in terms of impact to supply chain practitioners like us, right? So we're perpetually having to weigh these trade-offs, right? For example, more inventory to service our customers, reduce costs, etc. You know, these trade-offs are often very difficult, and because of the dynamic nature, things are not as stable, and the time it takes to actually assess and make decisions, you're often behind the curve and find that you can't act because the window of opportunity is already passed, right? So basically, you know, trying to navigate and deal with the volatility, uncertainty today in supply chain doesn't work very well with antiquated tools and methods, right? The manual processes, if you're going and checking your inventory parameters once a quarter, right, you're leaving a lot on the table. There's a lot of opportunity there to do better, to achieve benefit, right, through a more dynamic process using tools that continuously analyze, recalibrate, recalculate, and adapt. So here are some stats by Gartner, right? So making decisions without proper financial rigor, right? 3% or more profit erosion on average. Significant. This one I find really interesting. A study by McKinsey of 1,200 global business leaders. The impact of inefficient decision-making and cleanup, essentially, 530,000 days of managers' time, equating to approximately $250 million in wages, right? Really significant. Lastly, working off of poor data, data integrity, not getting the right data, not interpreting it correctly, and so on, is very costly as well to the tune of, on average, 13 million a year across all industries. So really significant impact, right? Also, very significant opportunity to do better and to gain a market advantage, for example. So now we're going to talk a little bit about this concept of decision engineering, right? So we define that basically as a supply chain discipline, structured method for breaking through ambiguity, improving outcome of decisions in a world of complexity and uncertainty, right? So it's a structured approach. It uses the right technology, it uses the right tools, and it is a process of constantly reevaluating. So we look to apply this to how we approach our technology roadmap with our product, how we engage with our customers, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what this means to our actual software in a minute. But this discipline is really a convergence of multiple fields. So systems engineering, so we are basically composable IT, right? So service-oriented architecture so that we can call services independently and focus on specific problems. A API strategy, Gains Connect as we call it, so that we can easily integrate with other systems like WMS and TMS and so on. So we can consume data, we can process, we can give back solutions, answers. We want to make sure that we're using the right methodology and technology like artificial learning and artificial intelligence and machine learning. Those are really at the forefront of our innovations with product these days. We want to use the right tools for the job, right? The right modeling tools. Lastly, we want to make sure that we have alignment across the business. We want to have workflows that allow this to be an efficient process to reach consensus and assess risk. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about what this means to our product itself, right? Composable solutions, basically, we're talking about decision-centric, problem-centric solutions. So traditionally, we have been an advanced planning system. We deploy that as an entire system, so you're getting the whole package from demand planning, inventory management, replenishment, distribution, procurement, and so on. And now we are actually focused around specific decisions and problems. We still deploy the full functionality, but we offer the flexibility of just addressing particular functional processes or particular problems with a service-oriented approach, right? So, you know, it focuses on specific problems. It leverages a collection of independent solvers and functions, so we can use the right capabilities, the right technology, the right tools to do the job, and it's system agnostic, right? So if you're using a WMS system, an ERP system, and you need to fill a gap in a certain area, whether it's related to inventory management, demand management, procurement, you know, we can offer solutions that essentially integrate and fill those gaps. And what's the value of that? High speed to impact, so time to value is significantly reduced, right? Your risk around deploying something that is a point solution, right, like this, as opposed to a full rip and replace type approach of pulling out an old system and replacing it with a new system, significantly reduces that effort. For IT, it significantly reduces the stress on the organization, and so on, right? And lastly, because we can deploy quickly and we can achieve return on investment quickly, this can become a self-funding method of innovation to move you on your way towards supply chain maturity, right? So solving specific problems, implementing specific processes as opposed to a much more lengthy and significant implementation type of a project. Just to give you a high level on essentially what this means, 30,000-foot overview of the product itself. End-to-end solutions, I want to stick on this for just a second. Design to planning. So traditionally, we've been an advanced planning system focused around, you know, demand planning, inventory optimization, purchasing and distribution, S&OP. And this has been publicized, but I don't think a lot of people know it yet. We offer a full supply chain design capability within our solution. So the big name traditionally in this space has been Coupa, LlamaSoft. We compete with them in this space in one single end-to-end platform. We have the ability to do pre-configured types of solutions that focus on specific functional processes like demand planning. And then we can provide point solutions that focus on a very specific data point like predicting lead time. And I'm going to talk about predicting lead time in a moment. Or just inventory management. So if you can imagine having a system where you're using kind of an antiquated approach to calculating your target inventory levels, right, on an SKU by location basis, we can apply a solution that allows you, right, and return a result so that it essentially integrates with your current system. Gains Connect is really this halo above on the top here that talks about how we connect within the landscape, right? So connecting with ERP systems, having standard APIs to connect to SAP, Oracle, NetSuite, Microsoft, as well as WMS systems, and having generic APIs to be able to pull in data from other sort of syndicated data platforms. Like what if you wanted to incorporate data from Salesforce into your demand planning, or Amazon, for example, right? Things of that nature. Or pull in data from transportation management to help you understand visibility around inbound material. So this allows us to really seamlessly fit into the landscape and complement existing systems. This is a lot of stuff. Sorry, it's a little busy, but if we take a look at this, this is sort of the composability framework that we're working under. At the top, we have these different functional processes like demand planning, inventory management, design, etc. And then they're supported by this essentially underpinning of technology, methodologies, and tools, right? So, for example, digital twin for supply chain design, machine learning prediction for demand planning, right? Things of that nature. And then lastly, we have how do we want to actually deliver the results of this thing? Is it a descriptive type of analysis? Is it diagnostic, prescriptive, etc.? Right. So a couple things that I want to point out here. This allows us to get away from a monolithic approach to be a service-oriented approach, to have this composable IT that we can then build particular solutions around, right? But more importantly, I want everybody to understand that we're not handing you some sort of a do-it-yourself toolkit where you have to do the programming, right? These are pre-configured solutions. They're tested. They are essentially productized and delivered. This is one of the kind of the flagship introductions that we've done in the space. It's a composable solution. It just does one thing. It predicts lead time, right? So how long is it going to take if I place an order today to get my next order? So it combines these different technologies, methodologies, and tools that are highlighted over here, right? And just think for a second of how important this one thing is. It dictates how much inventory you want to carry. It dictates when you're going to place your orders. It's part of your production planning. It's part of your available to promise that you communicate to your customers, right? It has huge implications. So getting it right is a major opportunity. So it's a little hard to see, sorry, but this sort of describes how the tool works. So it's essentially looking at all of the data that's available to it, both internal and exogenous, right? So it might be looking at some basic things that would be very intuitive, like how does this supplier perform for me? What's my average lead time when I buy products from this supplier into this location? Now let's get a little narrower on that and take a look at how they perform on that particular item that I'm interested in predicting. Then we look at some non-intuitive things, or less intuitive, I should say, like the amount that I order. When I place a large order, does it typically take longer, or does it take less time? Is it part of a particular product family, right? Is it something that I order frequently or very infrequently? Is it a popular item or not a very popular item? All of these things are relevant. The tool does the work for you, so the solution figures out what the correlations are, and it predicts lead time based on these common threads. So rather than just looking at one item, one vendor, a small population, it's looking across all of the potential attributes. But if you think about all the things that influence lead time, right, could be what the product is made of. Maybe it's made out of copper, and there's a trend with copper products and availability today. Maybe it's got an origin that means it's coming across the ocean, going through ports of entry, and there's problems there. So all of these different features, as we call them, can be informative, and the solution actually figures out what is and what isn't informative, right? So the results of this, when we've deployed it, we deployed it with a customer of ours in the US called Border States Electric, their electrical supply distributor. In 6 months' time, they've achieved some really phenomenal results with this solution, right? So they've been able to predict with 65% greater accuracy, I should say 65% of the orders have a more accurate lead time, 31% less margin of error on the lead time prediction itself, lost sales reduction of 18%, so they're serving their customers better. If you think about the impact of that on your business in terms of profitability, recouping that profit, retaining the trust of the customer, that's really pretty significant. And an inventory reduction of 21 million. So this is a spot solution that they've deployed. These are their results, stated results, by the way. And they've made those public. So if you think about this success within a 6-month time frame, it actually represents nearly a 10x return on investment. Okay? I'm going to use this slide to just talk a little bit about some of the other potential composable solutions that we're looking at right now. So lead time prediction, we talked about. Inventory and service level optimization. One thing that we do very well is we determine all the trade-offs around what products to stock, where within your network, right? At what levels, what customer service levels should you target for those products? And thinking about that in a multi-echelon type of an environment where you've got a distribution network plus potentially production, your manufacturing, right? Within that, there's a ton of independency, and we are, that is one of our differentiators, is our ability to do that. So think about the ability to call that so that you can get stocking parameters like safety stock and order quantity from an external solution and bring that into your existing tools, your existing systems, and utilize that for your stocking policy, right? This really talks about a kind of a roadmap of evaluating different solutions, and what we're trying to get at here is really that incremental value is something that we really strive for with our customers. So major transformations, they can be risky. I mean, they happen, and that's a good thing, generally speaking, but they often fail. They're somewhat risky. They sometimes fail to fulfill their promises. Doing major system implementations, it's a fairly big distraction. Now, implementing gains as a fully functional APS and/or supply chain design tool, something that is definitely very much what we still do, right? But we also have the flexibility of offering this sort of smaller solution approach to focus on specific processes and problems and decisions. So, in conclusion, around decision engineering and orchestration, right? So what we are enabling our customers to do is, again, navigate that cost, complexity, service trade-off, right? And make faster decisions, smarter decisions, more aligned decisions to improve efficiency and speed, enhance agility, keep up with supply chain that's continually changing, better allocation of resources, better customer experience, and consistency and scalability. The other main thing I want you to take away from this presentation is really the way that we are essentially pivoting with our technology to be able to offer these specific solutions to address specific problems. So reducing the IT burden, putting less stress on the organization, having a very clear and focused goal of addressing a particular problem or implementing one particular functional process, right? So that really concludes what I wanted to talk about today. If anything here resonated, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll connect and see what we can do for you. Thank you.